So many people have asked us what it was like for us to write the book, how we managed to write this book when we were both on the edge of burnout or at least overwhelm. If you've read the book, you'll know that this book was born out of a conversation around what we were feeling, how we were navigating our lives and our work, in addition to what we were seeing around us. And I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that for us, writing this book was an opportunity to step back and to create a sustaining practice out of writing. Both of us are drawn to writing. We both use writing as a practice to a way to reflect and to pause. And so doing that together was also part of that magical equation.
Yeah, I think there are two things for me in particular. That the first, being able to talk it out loud, I think for me that's the first step towards a sustaining practice or self-care or healing, however you want to term it. Just being able to talk about it to you and being able to admit that I was feeling overwhelmed was a move towards self-care. And the second thing, just to say about the writing, I would also say the practice of writing itself, and people will find their own practices here, but the practice of writing itself is a way for me to shut out all the noise that's going on around me and be in complete flow, where time becomes, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 10 hours that have passed.
Yeah. And it's important to note that sustaining practices will be different for everyone. So if going for a run or going to the gym is one of those things that's one more thing that you need to take care of, that you need to do, and it's kind of making you miserable because it's stressing you out, or adding more on top of a busy life, then maybe that's not quite the sustaining practice that it could be. So what we found through the research and in our own experiences as well was that people need to find the right type of sustaining practice for them. So whether that is a sports practice, fitness, movement is something that really, really does help. It helps our circulation, which increases our creativity, which gives us more capacity to solve some of the complexity in our lives. But we also found a number of other practices coming to light, such as even just being in the sun. So the power of the sunlight to restore your mood, to restore your sense of peace and your connection with yourself. Others include things like forest bathing. Forest bathing is a practice that originally came from Japan, and it was put in place in order to counteract the effects of a tendency to overwork, a tendency which we believe has extended to many, many cultures. But that forest bathing is the act of going out into nature, being amongst the trees, noticing that nature around you, and even listening to the sounds, listening to that analog sound of birdsong and leaves rustling in the wind. We listen to a lot of compressed sound in our lives, the sound that comes through, our technology devices. But listening to analog sound has been found to be very therapeutic.
And it's also worth saying that these practices we're talking about, people, our co-contributors to the book, talked about the regularity of these practices being important in staving off, burnout, or healing through burnout, or just being on the edge, being able to, in your daily routine, find a practice that is restorative for you. It's the regularity of that practice that's important. And the other thing to say perhaps is what was connected between them was this sense of mind-body connection. All of the practices are embodied in some way. Yeah. And people told us, that they felt disconnected from their physical selves as a result of overwhelm and burnout. And these practices enabled them to start to feel more whole again and for some started to enable them to actually feel again, a sense of, their emotions coming back that had been suppressed for so long.
So starting with noticing what's going on in that mind-body connection is an important step. There's another aspect to sustaining practices, which is whether it's individual or collective. So that's another finding from the book, and one that is also highly personal. So maybe if you spend all day working alone, what you need to sustain that is an activity that you do with others. And maybe that's dancing, maybe that is playing tennis, whatever that happens to be. It is in connection with others. For others of us, if we are working in relationship all day long, if our interpersonal skills are called upon to perhaps an excess, maybe what we need is something more solitary. So whether that's writing or running by yourself or walking in the woods or whatever that is, that collective versus individual aspect of a sustaining practice is also something to consider.